All right. As you may have heard, the labor secretary is has resigned following an internal misconduct probe by the Trump administration. That's Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remer. Again, she has resigned, and she's being replaced by Keith Sonderling, I should say, uh, who is currently the deputy labor secretary. So, what does all this mean? What does it mean that Chavez de Remer has resigned following a Trump internal probe, new replacement in place? Join me at this time to make sense of it all and explain what's going on is the president of the National Right to Work Foundation, Mark Mix. Mark, good to have you back. What's going on here?
Well, Rick, good to be on with you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about this. This was an issue that kind of goes under the radar because there's so much news these days. But
Yeah.
Lori Chavez de Remer was the Secretary of Labor for a relatively short period of time. She was a member of Congress, Republican member of Congress from Oregon, who was defeated in a general election back in 2024. She was a darling of Teamster union official Sean O'Brien. Sean O'Brien thought she would make a great labor secretary because she was one of three Republicans that voted for what was known as the PRO Act. Rick, I think we talked about this in the past. This was a piece of legislation that basically gave union officials dramatic new powers over workers, including, and this is why we were very interested, including the repeal of all the right to work laws across the country. 26 states across the country have laws that say you can't lose your job if you don't financially support or join a labor union. Real simple stuff. If you want to join, have at it. If you want to pay dues, have at it. But you can't lose your job if you're forced. So de Remer was one of three Republicans to vote to repeal all the right to work laws. So when Sean O'Brien escorted her down to Mar-a-Lago telling that President Trump that she was going to be a great labor secretary, President Trump agreed to that and she got confirmed by the Senate. Her tenure included, as you mentioned, Rick, several kind of investigations about allegations of improper activities as the Secretary of Labor. While those investigations were ongoing, they never came to fruition because she resigned her position as Secretary of Labor a couple of months ago. And Keith Sonderling, who was the Deputy Secretary, as you mentioned, Rick, he was named acting secretary in this interregnum. But on June 29th, just last week, he was nominated by the president to be the formal Secretary of Labor. And so that's where the battle comes out right now.
What do you think of Sonderling?
Well, we do have some experience with him. He seems to be independent. And the best news is it doesn't look like Sean O'Brien took him to Mar-a-Lago and asked the president to nominate him. Keith's been at the Department of Labor in the Wage and Hour Division since 2019. He was nominated and confirmed to be on the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission by President Trump. He served there for 4 years as the vice chairman. And his rulings there were very independent, very, very unbiased, if you will, and I think very balanced when it came to the rights of individual employees. And certainly, Rick, that's what we're asking for, is someone with just a kind of an independent view on how labor policy in America should be fomented, if you will. And I think Keith has that. I think a lot of the people here in Washington, D.C. believe that. He's known here in Washington, D.C. with his service, as I mentioned, EEOC and his service to the Department of Labor. So we came out and were supportive because he wasn't getting the endorsement of Teamster union official Sean O'Brien.
Uh-huh. I see. So what impact might this have on the labor market as you see it?
Well, Rick, it has a lot of impact. It has how we deal with independent contractors, how we deal with joint employers, how we deal with pension issues, how we deal with wage and hour issues. There is a very large portfolio of issues that have a real impact on employees across America. And, when we think about the relationship with employers and employees, we want to think of a relationship that's positive, that's not confrontational, that's not zero sum. Oftentimes, the way we look at labor policy in the United States here in Congress and sometimes during in these agencies is a real bias one way or the other. And it shouldn't be, employer centric. It shouldn't be employee centric. Okay. And it certainly shouldn't be union centric. That's the real key provision and what keeps us involved in this and keeping our eye on how this institution is going to work. It's a big agency. It's got a big budget. There's lots of discretionary money there that gets spent on apprenticeship programs and other things that I mentioned. So there's a lot there for protecting employees. And just on the other side of that coin, in protecting employers too. And that's really important in making sure our economy is moving forward, making we're creating new jobs or helping to create new jobs, and keeping regulations at a minimum, which kind of spurs the economy on. I think President Trump has that view in mind as well.
Yeah, I would think so. If any president had a view of keeping regulation at a minimum, I would think would be capitalist entrepreneur Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly free market people want that. Capitalism has kind of gotten a bad name and been demagogued by the left and the center sometimes. But the free market's something we can all agree with, Rick. And that's where this comes down, is creating an environment where we can create new opportunities for people, for employers. We can create opportunities where people want to take more risk, to invest capital, to create more jobs, to grow our economy. And certainly President Trump, not only in his first term, but in his second term on the campaign trail, and now as president of the United States, has advocated for growing the market, growing things here in America, bring manufacturing jobs back. And that comes with good policies and low regulations, and basically creating an environment where people want to take risks, invest capital, grow businesses here in the United States. And that's good for everybody, frankly.
Mark, thank you for joining us and putting some details on this. Before you go, tell us about the National Right to Work Foundation.
Yeah, Rick, we've been around since 1968. Our primary mission is to help employees exercise their rights in the American workplace. Those rights have been fairly limited since the 1930s, but we provide free legal services to employees. Currently, we have 17 staff attorneys that have over 290 active cases on behalf of employees right now on the docket in various cases around the country, in state court, in federal court, at the National Labor Relations Board, at the Equal Opportunities Economic Opportunities Commission, several litigations. We do all this for free, and we've been to the Supreme Court 18 times on behalf of workers, helping them, again, to expand or exercise their rights. And we'll continue to do that, and we thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about it.
All right. Very interesting and very valuable. Mark,
Thanks, Rick.
all right.
Yeah,
Thank you. Back
take
with
care.